everyone, I'm John Lynn, the founder and chief editor at Healthcare IT Today. I'm excited to bring the next entry in our EHR Telehealth series, where we sit down with top EHR vendors to talk about their approach to telehealth. Today, we're sitting down with Allscripts and their product, FollowMyHealth. And we're here with Kate Palazzolo, Vice President of Sales at FollowMyHealth, and also Skyler Wason, Director of Product Management at Allscripts. Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, so I'm excited to learn about Allscripts' approach to telehealth, but before we get there, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and Allscripts and FollowMyHealth? Skyler, maybe you want to start, and then Kate?
Sure. So I'm Skyler Wason, the Director of Product Management for FollowMyHealth. My team is really focused on figuring out the roadmap, the features that we need to build out, making sure that the priority is correct, and then we're responsible for ensuring the designs and the requirements that we gather provide the solutions that our clients and our users need, and then we work directly with our development team to build out those features.
Awesome. Kate?
Sure. Thanks for having us, John. Really appreciate being here, and we're excited to talk about telemedicine today, telehealth, one of our favorite topics of late. I'm Kate Palazzolo, and as you mentioned, I'm a vice president here at Allscripts. You mentioned that we're one of the top healthcare IT vendors out there, been in business more than 30 years, and primarily providing solutions and services for helping our clients connect providers, consumers, payers, communities, and so on. I, in particular, am responsible for sales, marketing, and business development for our consumer business unit, and that's all specific to our consumer-oriented solutions, the FollowMyHealth product that you mentioned. The FollowMyHealth platform is our mobile-first enterprise patient engagement solution, and it's used by about 4,000 healthcare organizations and over 41 million consumers to date.
Wow, that's impressive numbers. And it's interesting how those have probably changed over the last 6 months. But let's talk about that. I don't know which one of you would like to start, but what was Allscripts' view of telehealth pre-COVID-19, and then how did that COVID-19 change, how you were approaching telehealth?
Sure. So telehealth was always an interesting technology for us, right? It was something that made sense for us to fit into our platform. We wanted to make sure that patients were able to use their existing relationships with their current providers in order to have those video visits, those telehealth visits. Our platform is built out in a way that you connect with your healthcare provider at the organization that you're getting care at. And then you can interact with them through the portal for secure messaging, for prescription renewals, to get access to your data, scheduling appointments, and then we added telehealth onto that. So it was something that we talked to a lot of clients about, we showed it to them, but they were a little slow on the uptake. It was something that was interesting to them, but there were issues with potential reimbursement, right? Nobody was paying for it. There were hurdles around how to implement it. There was concerns around providers actually using it and some fear of the technology. And all of that just kind of prevented people from really taking the plunge. So we had it, sort of had a few folks using it. That all changed with COVID, right? All of a sudden we went to a completely virtual world, and it was a critical piece for them moving forward. And so clients were clamoring to turn it on and start using it. And we are an agile shop, so there are a lot of opportunities for us to pivot quickly. And so what we actually did is changed some of our functionality that we were working on to support COVID-specific telehealth features. So we wanted to be able to provide additional options for people to do telehealth, and we wanted something that was going to be really fast and quick and easy to implement. So we put our resources on that and started rolling things out quickly. We expect that telehealth is here to stay. I mean, the genie's out of the bottle. People are going to want to keep using it. So we are going to continue to build on that platform. So I don't know if, Kate, you have some things you want to add to that.
Yeah, I think the one of the things that you mentioned in particular, Skyler, that I want to just maybe emphasize a little bit more is that, one of our primary goals in building a telehealth solution was to create a platform that allowed patients to connect with their existing providers. And, because our FollowMyHealth platform and really the patient portal specifically are used by such a large number of providers and patients, it made sense to take advantage of the technology and the connectivity that was already in place in order to allow patients to remotely see their own providers. There are certainly, products out there, solutions in the market where the telehealth vendor provides both the technology and the providers. And while those offerings have merit for certain scenarios, what we definitely see from our clients and heard from our clients is that they are very interested, might I say fiercely interested, in maintaining the patient-provider relationship, and also then keeping the majority of the revenue associated with that relationship within their own control, their own walls, so to speak. So building our FollowMyHealth telehealth platform in the way that we did worked out well for being able to respond so quickly, as Skyler mentioned, when COVID hit in the US. Enabling and configuring the technology takes a matter of hours and days instead of weeks or months in some cases. And our clients are already familiar with how FollowMyHealth is administered, both inside their organization and then how to administer and roll that out to patients as well.
Yeah, and I think Skyler gave us the understatement of the day as far as the tepid response pre-COVID. But I think everything did change, right? And something that's interesting for me, looking at how FollowMyHealth integrates with Allscripts, was that obviously it came together through a transaction where Allscripts acquired the solution and integrated it with the EHR. But I think something that feels differentiating to me with FollowMyHealth is that it really is more of a platform, whereas many of the telehealth solutions that I've seen are just a video visit replacement. Is that how you guys look at it? And that's how and why it almost makes sense for FollowMyHealth to be its own product, separate from the EHR, but tightly integrated. Is that how you guys see it? Or, what was the thinking of having kind of this separate FollowMyHealth platform?
Sure. So I think there's a couple of things there that you're touching on, John. So first of all, the fact that it's a separate platform is largely a function of the fact that Allscripts acquired the FollowMyHealth product. Now we're going on about 7.5 years ago. So it was a separate product. Meaningful use was just coming into play, where healthcare organizations had to be able to provide this type of remote and electronic access to their patients. So Allscripts was seeing what success FollowMyHealth was having in the market and in the Allscripts base, and made the acquisition. So in that, obviously we had to very quickly focus on having very tight and secure integration points between FollowMyHealth and the Allscripts EHRs and PMs, practice management systems as well. But we had grown up, the FollowMyHealth product and team had grown up with the idea that we want to be a patient engagement platform. We want to be a destination for patients. We want patients to use the solution as a way to house their data, own their data, connect to their healthcare organizations, interact with their healthcare organizations, but use this tool as kind of the centerpiece of how they manage their own health and take an active role in the care team, so to speak. We were somewhat fledgling in that, and that we were just starting to kind of grow that platform concept. But we had to start somewhere, and meaningful use certainly gave us a rapid uptick in getting adoption from both clients and patients. So to that end, it is a separate solution from the EHRs. It makes sense to be in that if we really want to continue with that vision and mission that we originally started, we need to be able to connect to anything that has data of interest and houses relationships of interest to the patients that are inside our FollowMyHealth platform. So then once we had that connectivity layer or highway, so to speak, the things that you can do to ensure that you're having the most interactive and engaged and activated patient experience between the healthcare organizations and the patients can all revolve around that platform. So yes, to your point, having telehealth be just an extension of that existing connectivity layer, it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense to our clients, but also to patients as well.
Yeah, well, and I think Allscripts is in a unique position with multiple EHRs that it makes sense to develop one rather than, multiple product lines across, the solutions. That becomes a mess as well. So talk about this, what are the integrations available between FollowMyHealth and the various different Allscripts EHR?
Yeah, so again, just to kind of reiterate on what Kate said earlier, the FollowMyHealth platform is EHR agnostic. So we work with a lot of different stuff. We've got a very robust interface engine that we can build things out pretty quickly on, and then we can interact with those systems based on whatever they have available. That might be through an API, that might be direct database access or HL7. It just kind of depends on the situation. And a lot of our clients are large. They have a lot of different systems. So we have to make sure that we can interact with all of those so they can present a single experience for their patients, right? They're all part of the same organization. Why do they want to have a bunch of different systems the patient has to log into? It should just be that one thing. So one of the things that we've done with Allscripts products in particular is to actually work with our EMR teams to tightly integrate with their schedule. So I can see on the schedule that this is a video visit appointment. I can see when that patient is checking in. I can see when they're ready, and then I can launch that video conference right from my schedule in the EMR, put it off to the side on another monitor, document in the EMR while I'm having that video conference. We're basically just facilitating essentially what we're doing right now on this call. We have that conversation, but you can do other things on your computer at the same time. It's not really any different than seeing somebody in person. You just are interacting them through different media, but you're still going to document and take all the same steps that you would in the EMR and your PM system. You're going to write your prescriptions, you're going to chart your note, you're going to trigger charges, you're going to do all that stuff the same way. So why have that happen somewhere else? Let's just leverage the existing flows that your providers are already comfortable with and give them a way to connect the patient and the provider and potentially other parties, interpreters, nurses, other specialists, other family members together for that virtual visit.
I think it seems really valuable. And, obviously I've done a lot of these interviews now, and so lots of different themes and potentials are coming together. But one that's really interesting about your approach, which I think is unique, is that, in many EHR vendors, I think we're going to see a place where the development of the telehealth product is going to get cannibalized by other product lines. And I think in your situation where it is a very separate product, integrating with multiple EHRs, even non-Allscripts EHRs, right? Because you are EHR agnostic, I think that puts you in a really interesting place. Anyway, that's a little side commentary that I think really is interesting. And as more and more acquisitions happen, we're going to have more healthcare organizations that have multiple EHR. I think that's a future reality as well. So very interesting. Let's shift gears and talk about the product, FollowMyHealth as well. And I call this my lightning round. So we'll run through a bunch of the product features, and we can talk about and dive into some of them and say, how is it unique, or how have you implemented it, or do you have it, do you not, are you working with partners, all of those types of things. So we'll run through each of those. I've kind of created a list that said, okay, every EHR vendor has this. So I'll run down those, and you can, afterwards you can say, yeah, of course we do all those, and or if if there's any mistakes or things you're like, no, we do this a little different or whatever. But so for example, everyone is HIPAA compliant, which I assume is fair for all of you. The audit logs as well. It's a requirement. I think Meaningful Use really pushed that forward. You had to do it. Automated patient reminders. I imagine it's similar to how you might do a reminder for another visit within Allscripts. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have that. It is similar to it. The text and the information that's in it's going to be a little different because you're prepping somebody for a video visit. Sure. There's a link to join, that kind of thing. So, but yes.
Exactly. So it can be customized, but yeah, it's usually built on the same system with just a little different information. Good point. Then patient education is all available, and patient payment through it as well. Are those all core features to everything you're doing?
Yes and yes.
Great. So let's dive into the other ones that, I think people implement a lot of different ways. So for example, custom branding. Do you offer the custom branding where, really it looks like it's coming from the clinic or hospital system?
Yeah, so we've got 3 different ways that you can access Follow My Health as a patient. One is a web version that you would do from your laptop, your computer, and then we've also got native Android and iOS apps. We let clients custom theme and custom kind of pick the colors and the layout and the images of the web version, because it's easy for us to do that. We can give them their own URL and they can brand it to match their organization. For the mobile app, it's a little bit different, because we are creating a single account for each person and then letting them connect to multiple different healthcare organizations. It'd be really confusing to have a bunch of different apps. So we've got one branded for Follow My Health with a consistent experience that everybody that's using Follow My Health would use on their mobile device.
Got you. Well, and you don't want to manage 70 submissions to the iPhone App Store either. So but that is a good point. That's an interesting little differentiation between web versus mobile. And we'll dive into that, I think, in a minute as well. How about telehealth appointment scheduling? How are you approaching that?
Yeah, so we do self-scheduling today through our portal for regular appointments, and we just added on the ability to also schedule telehealth visits. So you can do that in the same way. That could also just be scheduled by the organization, and then we would tell you when it's time to join and Follow My Health, and you would just join that way. So we support both.
Excellent. How about asynchronous text messaging with the patient?
So yes, it's part of our overall mobile patient engagement platform, which is part of Follow My Health. It's not something that we would consider specific to the telehealth flow, though.
Got you, but you have it available. And is it text messaging or is it portal messaging, which I think there's a subtle difference between the two, but similar.
Yeah, so we do both. We can actually outreach people via text message, whether or not they have an account, and do things like gaps in care outreach or appointment reminders, confirmations, wait lists. All of that stuff can be done through the engagement platform without having an account or with an account. But then we also do support secure messaging within your portal, so you can interact with your provider and your healthcare organization via secure message that way as well.
Yeah, that's great. And I think that's one of those things you guys have been doing forever. It's funny, like, some people are just building it and you guys have probably been doing it for a long time. So super interesting. How about real-time text chat during the visit? So, it's something maybe you want to share a link or patient education, or maybe you don't understand them, they type it in, or we've seen it used all sorts of ways. How about that?
Right. So that's something that we're working on right now. That should be available late this year, early 2021. One of the other things that makes the platform unique is the fact that you've got that connected Follow My Health account where we're pulling your data in from the EMR. So all the stuff that you're documenting for the patient, their education, other information, the prescriptions that you wrote, their CCDA, all that stuff that happens is going to flow into Follow My Health just like it would for an in-person visit. So you don't need to necessarily provide the same type of education material or links during the visit, because the patient's just going to get it right after.
Gotcha. That makes sense. How about web-based versus app-based? You talked a little bit. It sounds like you have both. And is that true for the clinician and the patient, or are the apps really patient-focused?
Yeah, so it's available for both. So we do allow the providers to use the EMR to join the scheduled video visits. We also support on-demand video visits without an appointment. So that's something that the provider could go into our dashboard in the web to manage that. We also have a mobile app that's available for iOS users. We have an Android one in the works, but it allows the provider to join from that as well. So they can use either option if they have them available. Some of the integrations that we have, there's not the direct tie back into the EMR, because that would require that third-party system to make changes to their system for us to do that, and they may or may not be willing to. And in that case, the provider would just log into our dashboard or use the app to get access to it. On the patient side, it's whatever device they've got handy. It could be their mobile phone, it could be their computer. Maybe they're going to switch in the middle of the visit because their battery's almost dead on their phone. So we support all.
Yeah, that's a great example. It's fascinating because in most cases with the doctors, they don't want the mobile app. And when, a few cases where it's been tied to the mobile app, they're like, no, I want my dual monitors so I can do the EHR and the telehealth. So there's I think we've seen a trend that direction. And sometimes it may be both is good, right? Because maybe it's the mobile up here, EHR on my desktop. So I think it's important to have both. Feels like.
Yeah, I think it can work best if you've got the video and you can focus on that, and then you've got a place where you can actually work and review the chart and do your regular workflow at the same time.
Yep, absolutely. I think we've gotten a lot more dual monitors in healthcare now, thanks to telehealth. How about the patient intake paperwork being done electronically? How are you doing kind of that forms management, if you will?
Yeah, so that's just part of the check-in process for the visit. Those can be built out, customized by the client, and then we present them as part of that check-in flow. They're filled out, and we send that data back into the EMR.
And I assume that includes like the e-signature for the HIPAA notice and all that.
Yep, you can include all of that stuff. We have different signature components and stuff in the form. You can do, branching logic. You can customize what's required, what's not required. It's super flexible. It's just a drag and drop kind of UI builder for the forms, and you can really create whatever you want.
Nice. That's good. I know a lot of people are using third parties for that, so it's great that it's built in. How about a virtual waiting room? This is interestingly enough, I think one that we need to revisit in 6 months, but how are you approaching the virtual waiting room today?
Yeah, so the virtual waiting room, it's just a place for folks to wait for the visit to actually start before you connect the video conference. And so the patient is going to drop into the virtual waiting room after they check in, and then the provider can pick up that visit. They can review details, what's going on with that patient. When they're ready, they initiate that video conference. So we do have a virtual waiting room today.
And how do you approach that from a workflow perspective? Say the MA needs to get it or the nurse, and then the doctor can. Does your waiting room support that type of workflow?
Yeah, so we actually allow multiple parties to join. So you can have multiple people joining from the schedule in the EMR. You could have people joining from the dashboard or the app. You can even have other third parties joining if they have access to the dashboard. There's no limit on the number of people that we allow to enter. On the patient side, the patient can join, their family members can join, so you can have multiple parties during that visit or for parts of that visit if you need to.
Nice. And I actually just wrote an article today that published about the need for multiple sessions, and I think you highlighted it well, whether it's the caregiver, whether it's mom or dad, whether it's your kid, whether it's another specialist, care manager, the nurse. It just seems like that's going to be an essential function. But the most exciting area of development to me is the workflow, and I think we're also still discovering, do we need the MA in a telehealth visit, and how do we need them? So anyway, like I said, I think that's something 6 months from now will be fun to see how far it's developed and how far it's come. So how about multilingual and remote interpretation? How are you approaching those two aspects?
Yeah, so it's similar to the way that we do the providers. The organization provides those resources, they join the visit, so you would just pull in an interpreter and have them join from the EMR, from the dashboard, and they would just be another party within the visit.
Right. And how about integrated clinical documentation? I mean, you talked about kind of having some of that data there, but I think this is coming more from the perspective of, the doctor that does the visit. How do they get the clinical documentation back into the EHR so they get paid,
That all happens, real time, side by side, because we're not forcing you to be in another system to do everything. You just pull up the video visit on one monitor and you got your EMR on the other, and you document like you normally would. And that could happen during the visit, or maybe the provider prefers to do it after the visit. Maybe your nurse or somebody else is actually joining the visit in advance and queuing all that stuff up for you. We support all of those workflows. So the documentation thing and the billing thing is not really an issue, because you're just doing it in EMR like you always did. We're not trying to replace that part of it. We're just trying to connect people via video.
Yeah, it's interesting. I hadn't heard anyone say a scribe's joined yet, but that certainly is the same option that could be available. The other one I always push people on is no integration with ambient clinical voice to do the auto documentation. Anything you want to talk about there? So far, no one's had it, so it's still my dream, right?
We are in discussions about how to possibly do that, but we don't have it yet.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's the golden feature if someone can figure it out, I think. So, so
The
like
same,
I said, go ahead,
yeah,
Kate.
cut you off there, but I've been saying the same thing. I actually happened across, or someone sent me a startup that is working on that, claims to have it, whatever the reality of the situation is. But I went straight there that if you can pull that off in a way that is pretty flawless and completely integrated into the workflow, then it will change healthcare.
Yeah. I mean, when they talked about it in the exam room, there was always that overhead that said, do I really want, a bunch of microphones in the exam room listening to me, and will the patient be okay with that? But to do it in telehealth, like there already is a microphone, there's a full video camera. Like, so that is the opportunity now to really and if, like you said, if we make that successful, every exam room will have a microphone as well. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting companies working there.
Absolutely. And what I thought was interesting about the one in particular that I saw is that they were trying to use it to also help better automate the billing component. So actual documentation, and then, how it was coded and billed. And again, there's a lot of ifs there, but if you can get that to be very well oiled and pretty well flawless, you could find providers actually preferring to do a telehealth visit for those types of visits that don't require in-person exam versus having a patient in front of you.
Yeah, no, it is the golden feature. So let me know when you got it, because I'm looking. But so is everyone else. All right, so let's hit a few more features to wrap it up. How about screen image capture? So if I hold up my wound or whatever it might be, can you do that now?
Yeah, so that's part of the check-in flow. So when the patient's checking in, they can upload images or they can snap pictures in real time with their phone if they're doing it on the mobile device.
Gotcha. And how about screen share? If say the doctor wants to pull up an image or maybe a graph of their last lab results or something like that, is that option available?
That'll be available next month, so October 2020.
All right, sounds good. And how about the post-visit? And this is really kind of 2 or 3 features, so you can maybe break it out, but the patient ratings, the reviews and surveys. So I think there's like the public side, pushing them to do ratings on the public side to kind of drive more traffic. And then there's the other side, which is just, hey, I need some information on how we did. How do you approach those?
Yeah, so that's something that's available today. We do the mobile patient engagement approach. So you get a text after the visit, tap on the link, you fill out the survey, and we collect it that way.
Got you. And do you integrate with the others, the ZocDocs of the world, the health grades and people like that? Or is that something you look at partners to do, or have you worked on that?
So it's data that we're capturing on our side, and then clients can slice and dice it however they want today.
Gotcha. Okay. And how about the telehealth specific billing and verification? How are you approaching that? Is that built in the platform, or do you kind of rely on the EHR PM to do that?
So some of the services we can capture payment up front. So if you're doing an email visit or you're doing an on-demand video visit and they want to charge for that service out of pocket, you can set it up to take a credit card before the visit happens. We also support invoice billing on the FollowMyHealth side, so you can queue up all your charges in the EMR or PM system like you would for an office visit, and then we'll present the bill to the patient in their account, and they can make a payment that way via credit card or check.
That's great. I mean, it's amazing how much a difference a virtual option makes versus sending a statement. There's been all sorts of studies that way, and receiving the patient payment. It's become more and more important. So excellent. Well, to kind of thanks for the overview of the product, and I'm sure things are continuing to evolve. But just kind of to wrap up here, what do you see the role of telehealth in really the growth of the business at Allscripts going forward? Obviously they've made a huge investment buying, the FollowMyHealth platform, so made that investment 6 years ago before COVID-19. But how do you see it playing out going forward, and the role of it in the Allscripts business?
Yeah, so we believe that it's here to stay. Providers want it, patients want it, organizations need it. The genie's out of the bottle. I think I said that before. It's going to be hard to go back to not doing it when it was so successful and so convenient for patients and providers. So we expect that clients will continue to leverage what we have. We also expect that some of our clients may be looking for a more permanent solution. There was some very quick decisions that were made at the beginning of the outbreak to try and get something to fill that gap, which needed to be done. And so as things start to return to more normal, people are going to be looking for other options, and we want to be one of those options for them to select. So we've got a lot of really cool features in the pipeline that we're working on, specifically around telehealth and making it easier for patients to get in, making it easier to invite people. And we're going to continue to expand on that moving forward. So we really see it as being a pillar of our offering as part of the FollowMyHealth platform moving forward.
Yep, and I'll just add to that too, if you don't mind, John. Well, sure, yeah. Well, telehealth is certainly not a new technology relatively. It's clear to all of us that it's showing itself to be a huge growth market for our healthcare industry in general. And as it so often occurs with innovation, this recent shift in telehealth adoption and its usage is all due to disruption. Disruption drives change, disruption drives innovation. In this particular case, that disruption was a worldwide pandemic, which forced us all to view our, the healthcare delivery expectations somewhat differently than we had in the past. But ultimately for us, for Skyler and me and everyone else in the consumer business unit and certainly at Allscripts at large, one of our core passions is this space, and it all revolves around making this platform as valuable and usable as possible to providers and to consumers. And this telehealth offering enables just yet another dimension of that mission.
Well, I think you guys are in a unique position because it is a full platform. We haven't mentioned remote patient monitoring. So if you don't mind for a second, how are you approaching that? Because that's, we saw the explosion of telehealth and people are like, yeah, the genie's not going back in the bottle. And I think that's true for live video visits. And we've seen some growth and benefit to remote patient monitoring, but not the explosive growth like we did with live video visits. How are you approaching remote patient monitoring on your platform?
Yeah, so that's actually something that we've had in the platform for quite a long time. We allow you to set a goal for the patient to, monitor their glucose or their blood pressure from home or their weight for congestive heart failure. And that's something that's queued up from the EMR. You can set up custom rules for that patient. So I want to know if you're not compliant. Maybe you haven't taken your weight readings in the last week, or maybe you've gained too much weight in the last 24 hours and we want to have you in and get your meds adjusted right away to prevent readmission. You can customize those rules specific to that particular individual, and then you can integrate with Apple Health. You can integrate with wireless devices to have that data fed right in. So all you're doing is taking your weight from home on your scale or using your blood pressure cuff. And then we're analyzing those readings as they come in, and we can send notification and results back into the EMR to let somebody know, hey, this is off course. Hey, this person just completed their goal. And it can be as simple as, I want you to track your blood pressure until your next visit so that we can review it. Or it may be much more like, we're gonna need to do an intervention depending on what happens with you to prevent you from being readmitted. So you can use it for high-risk patients. You could also use it for more of a wellness type thing where, hey, you just need to get 7,000 steps a day. We want to track that for the next 3 months. So that's something that we've had for probably about 7 years now.
Amazing.
What I think is interesting about it though is that, I am kind of watching and waiting, and Skyler, you and I probably need to have some conversations about this as well, but it feels very much like what we're seeing with telehealth could end up being the case with our remote patient monitoring solution. We call it Achieve, in that it has been fairly slow to be adopted. It's been used in very specific cases or instances with a number of clients, but not rolled out at large. But it has even more interesting implications in being coupled with telehealth. So as we now see that telehealth is being more widely adopted and becoming a more common component of how a healthcare system delivers health or healthcare, they may find, and we may see that using remote patient monitoring as an extension or complement to telehealth to provide more well-rounded care for those folks who have, chronic condition management, can't easily get to the office, whatever the set of circumstances may be. I think that it sets us up well to see that become perhaps the next thing that we're surprised by how quickly it grows.
Yeah, I hope you're right. And yeah, I think Skyler started it off right, talking about FollowMyHealth being an enterprise telehealth platform. And I'm interested to see how that market evolves. And, do people need that enterprise, or are they okay with a simple, one-off live video solution? Or because value-based reimbursement, that feels like remote patient monitoring is needed to me. So thanks so much for taking the time to share these insights and perspectives, and your experience with telehealth and FollowMyHealth, and obviously Allscripts being involved as well. So thanks for your time. And if you want to find out the rest of the EHR telehealth video series, you can check it out at healthcareittoday.com. Thanks, Skyler. Thanks, Kate.
Thanks, John. Take care.